Hey y'all, X-Art student here. I'm an artist located in Connecticut, and I wanted to try making another pop-up this week. So I looked at some of my old art and I found this cool skull flower design. I figured that'd be really cool to do a piece where something has to be revealed, because technically in that glass piece, there's the front panel that is covered, and then the back panel, he opens his shirt up to reveal a bunch of flowers. I chose watercolor because it worked for me last week with the moth pop-up, and I thought I could really do some cool color blends to create some of my characters. And why not do bright colors with cool color combos and see if it can work for a possible comic in the future, or just kind of flatly designing a animation or something like where scenes change. I think that could be something really cool for my future pieces. Also, look how beautifully the red and the yellow interact with watercolor. I love watercolor for its organic blending. It's so beautiful and weird at the same time. Luckily with this watercolor set, it takes a very minimal amount of time for each layer to dry, and I just add more and more colors if I want it to be more vibrant, and if I need to take away anything, I use a paper towel. I didn't really have much of a color scheme going on. I just knew the shirt of this skull boy should be black because I wanted the inside of his chest with flowers to be so different, a big contrast. And I know when I've painted little ornament things, my skull guy has had bright colors in one of the pieces, so I thought it'd be fun to replicate it here, and I'm pretty happy with that. Not gonna lie, it took me a while to figure out what I wanted to paint in the middle of this skull boy. In my head, I had this vision of beautiful pink flowers, like the Japanese traditional ones. Then I started trying to draw it, and it just wasn't working, and I was like, maybe I could do forget-me-nots. The head already has blue, so why would I continue blue in the chest? So I just looked at the actual piece that I made out of glass and copied a lot of those colors. The only challenging thing was I was trying to figure out how to make these petals white and have that outline. Eventually I used yellow, and the gray accidentally mixed with it from the shirt, and I liked that effect. It was very cartoony, not realistic, but it got the same design element across that I needed. Then my favorite part, adding little cute designs to everything. I used a dark blue and just copied what was already on that glass drawing and freestyled a few lines here and there. It's just supposed to be kind of tribally, mothy, ritual-esque kind of design. In order to do this technique of painting my color on top of the other colors, I needed to make sure this blue had very, very little water. I just wanted to activate it so then I had the color without drowning it in water, because if I did that, then it would activate all of the red and yellow underneath and become muddy. And in some parts, I actually did make it muddy, so I had to fix it. Here, I didn't really like just the white background, especially because I had those white daisies, I think they are. So I went in with a very light purple wash to just bring up that contrast, and I think it went well together. I didn't want the purple to be too dark, so I went in with my paper towel to just blot it, and then lightly filled in any spots that needed some purple. Here I'm cutting out my character. I wanted to cut it out exactly so then I could put it on a different background, whether I painted it or just found a colored piece of paper. And I thought it'd be a fun new layer to this pop-up series. Actually, I don't know if this is a series, but I'm having fun with it, so I wouldn't mind trying to experiment more with pop-ups. The next step I needed to do was trace the body, because I wanted the flowers underneath to be revealed, so I needed to make sure there was a blank shirt that was hiding all of the goodies underneath. Once I liked the shape, I traced it onto another piece of watercolor paper and cut that out too. I needed two sides to glue on top of the pop-up mechanism. One side will be showing as the front part of the shirt, and then the other side is going to be the inside. That's where the skull is pulling away his shirt, revealing the inside. And I just went with a simple black wash on it and made sure the fingers were a light blue, because that's how this is being opened, with his hand. Once I was home, I had all of my supplies, so I got my cardstock and traced and cut out my cardstock pop-up mechanism. It helps to have this thicker paper, so when you're doing the pop-up reveal, it's pretty sturdy and will actually work compared to just a piece of printer paper. I transport all my stuff in my sketchbook so that nothing bends or gets ruined in the transport back home. I traced my pop-up stencil onto my background cardstock and cut it out with my exacto knife. This is where the pop-up mechanism will slide through and do its pop-up procedure. I think I need to remeasure it, but I finally got it to all slide through. I've bent in those little arms and put it inside of the background paper so then it can work as a actual pop-up. Here I'm trying to figure out where my moth skull boy can lay for this to actually work, because it seemed like the wings were getting in the way and I want it to actually do the pop-up effect, because that's the whole point of this whole project. So I had to do a little bit more maneuvering, shortening the lever and hoping it would actually work this way. I decided to glue on the pieces of the shirt to the pop-up lever before gluing down the moth. Since I already knew where it would lay, I just wanted to not get glue on everything else if I could just keep it on this one piece of shirt. I had to test it out just in case to see where I could lay my moth down. I cut a little bit of the wings to hopefully let the pop-up paper actually move the way it needed to. You can see some problems, but it also seemed to work. So to me that sounded like it was time to glue it down. I pressed down my skull boy and it looked like it was all lined up with the shirt. So it sounded good to me, and I started cutting out the background. I thought it'd be really cute to make this ovalish frame, black background, and a gold border. I glued the back of the black paper, so then I could just lay it down easily onto the golden paper. I wanted to make sure I avoided gluing where the mechanism was, so it could still do its pop-up effect. I cut it out, added some little design elements to the frame because it looked pretty bare without it, and I also wanted it to be more of my style. I really like how these little elements work together. I waited till the next day to do final shots, and then I realized my pop-up mechanism was not working. I think the paper on the little arms got too worn out, so it no longer was creating a barrier, and underneath the moth, I think it got too glued down, so then my pop-up mechanism could not actually pop up. Now I had to make another pop-up mechanism that would be sturdy as well as fit this space, make more room for everything, and hope that it would actually work. Honestly, this really did stink because I was at the final shots moment, just getting those pretty shots, and I was done. But turns out I had to rework the whole thing, and the whole point of this is to be a beautiful pop-up, so I'm gonna try making it a beautiful pop-up. I finally got it to work. It's not the most beautiful lever, but it works. Guys, I did it! Woo! Now it's time for the final shots. And we finally finished. Consider checking out my Etsy to buy something that I've made. Did you vote on my poll? If not, please do that. Consider subscribing, checking me out on social media, and I'll see you next time. Thanks, guys!